Now, Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has also now broken his silence, though there is still no physical appearance by him. However, in this latest message, he's declared victory in this war and has now issued a fresh warning to the United States and Israel. Now, in a defiant statement, Mojtaba Khamenei says that Iran achieved a decisive victory and has announced that Tehran will take the management of the Strait of Hormuz to a new phase. He has also warned the aggressors that they will not go unpunished, signaling possible retaliation. But the Iranian leadership has also indicated that it would seek accountability and compensation for wartime damages, doubling down on its control as far as the strategic oil choke point is concerned. Now, the remarks underscore Tehran's hardened stance, projecting triumph and tightening its grip over the Strait of Hormuz and warning of a payback despite the ceasefire talks. Let's, in the meantime, talk about how many ships have crossed till now as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. 6 seems to be the number on Thursday, and there seems to be still limited traffic through the Strait of Hormuz as the shipping remains low, and only 6 vessels have now transited through the Strait of Hormuz as when it comes to the transition or the passage still remains restricted to the shipping activity that remains thin at the Strait of Hormuz, where usually before the war there used to be hundreds of ships and tankers that used to be having that clear and free passageway. Let's go back to Srinjoy on this. Srinjoy, there is still a cautious approach by multiple countries as far as if the Strait of Hormuz is actually opened or not.
You would expect that to happen, and at different levels. Why should shipping companies still take the risk? That's what they'll ask themselves. Do we want to take the risk? These tankers, these merchant ships are all very expensive ships. Do we want our ships to get hit by missiles or drones or mines or whatever? The answer is no. Then there are people on the ships, the captains, the other staff on the ships. Do they want to be on the ships crossing the Strait of Hormuz? Probably not. They're not trained soldiers. They're just sailors. And they don't want to get into trouble either. So that's the second thing. At the top level, countries, they are waiting and watching. Yes, the Iranians have said the Russians are friends, the Chinese are friends, the Indians are friends, and so on. But what about the other countries? They're not so sure. Yes, the Japanese have done a deal. And the Japanese have said that, okay, we've done a deal with the Iranians and our tankers can go through. Because the countries that need oil through the Strait of Hormuz the most and natural gas are India, Japan, South Korea, and most importantly, China.
Yes.
So if India and China are friends, then Japan has done a deal. It's up to South Korea, which was in talks
with the Iranians. Well, that seems to be the results of positive, diplomacy that is yielding results. And of course, the direct talks that Iran has been having with, the Iranian counterparts, because we've seen the kind of level of relationship, of course, that goes back to a long, long time ago. But this seems to be the kind of diplomacy that seems to be working in India's favor. Let's, in the meantime, talk about President Trump, because there seems to be another warning that President Trump has been giving to Iran over the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Strait of Hormuz, which has turned into a bigger headache for the United States of America, because it has been claiming that the strait is now open, there is a free passageway. However, the situation on ground, the reality is completely different. What does President Trump say now? Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, would some to say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz, and that is not the agreement that we have had. So he's now blaming Iran of going back on its word as far as the opening of the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, which is not the reality, because Iran immediately, promptly shut the Strait of Hormuz right after Israel carried out those deadly strikes in Lebanon. And Iran is now maintaining that its own terms and conditions, if they are not met, well, the Strait of Hormuz, in a way that has been effectively weaponized by Iran, will remain closed. So what are we looking at as far as the number of ships that have still managed to cross the Strait of Hormuz? It is very low, barely less than 10 ships.